Daytona 500 winning crew chief Steve Letarte will return to the top of the pit box this Sunday for the Spire Motorsports number 7 car. Steve Letarte is as I said, Daytona 500 winner. He won it with Dale Jr. back in 2014, and he has won 15 races over 10 years with Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Regan Smith when Regan Smith subbed for Dale Jr. back in 2012. But the highlights of his career were Jeff Gordon's 2007 season when Gordon and Letarte had 6 wins, competed for a championship. And then in 2014, Letarte with Dale Earnhardt Jr. had 4 wins with the Daytona 500, and they swept Pocono and won at Martinsville. And that was Letarte's crew chiefing career. After that, he decided he would go up to the booth when NBC returned to NASCAR, and he's been doing that since 2015. And now he is going to return as a crew chief just for one race at least for Spire Motorsports. You may be thinking, oh, this is very random, but it is not. Letarte has been a consultant at Spire Motorsports for the past few months, with Ryan Sparks, the current crew chief of Corey LaJoie's number 7 car, being exposed to COVID, having something like that. Letarte will step in and take over for the next race or 2, depending on how long he is out. Here's the statement from Spire. Due to COVID-19 protocols, Ryan Sparks, crew chief for Spire Motorsports number 7 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 and 1LE, will be unavailable to participate in Sunday's Dixie Vodka 400 and will not travel to Homestead-Miami Speedway. Additionally, 2 other members of the number 7 team will be inactive this weekend in adherence with the same directives. Veteran NASCAR Cup Series crew chief, NBC Sports analyst, and Spire Motorsports consultant Steve Letarte will call the race in Sparks' absence for the team and driver Corey LaJoie. There is the official statement from Spire Motorsports. Spire Motorsports, we've talked about them before. They just recently expanded to a 2-car team. They used to be a single-car team with the 77. In fact, remember, they won a race back in 2019, the Daytona Summer Race, with Justin Haley, a rain-shortened race, and Justin Haley staying out, avoiding a crash, got him the win there. So Spire Motorsports has won before, and they have been looking to get better. They've expanded to a 2-car team. They have now added on Steve Letarte as a consultant, and now Letarte will be on top of the pit box. Obviously, as I said earlier, this is not going to be any type of permanent change for this team. It's just due to the fact that the crew chief for Spire Motorsports and the number 7 car, I should say more specifically for Corey LaJoie, he rather has COVID or he's been exposed to COVID, so he cannot travel to the track this weekend. He is not allowed at the track at all. But anyways, that's that. Corey LaJoie, we've talked about him before too. He raced for Go Fast Racing. I think this is his 4th or 5th full-time year in the Cup Series. He's a really good super speedway racer. He's gotten some top 10s. I think he got a top 10 the Daytona 500 this year. So he's a pretty decent super speedway racer, but other than that, not the greatest equipment, not the greatest opportunity to go up and compete. So Letarte's return is to Spire Motorsports, and I don't expect him to call a winning race or anything, but I just think it is an interesting storyline because everyone knows who Steve Letarte is, whether you're a new fan and you know him from the NBC booth, or maybe you've been like me, you've been a fan for just a decade or so, and he was the crew chief for Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr. But yeah, Steve Letarte is returning to the pit box this weekend. He will be crew chiefing. That's all there is on that. Nothing really more other than Ryan Sparks, the current crew chief for Corey LaJoie, got COVID or was exposed to COVID and cannot participate in this race. So Steve Letarte is stepping in, the Daytona 500 champion Steve Letarte. And there is some more news we're going to talk about briefly. Charlotte Motor Speedway announced today that 30% is the capacity. North Carolina, actually, I should say, announced that sports stadiums can operate at 30% capacity, which means the Coca-Cola 600 in May will be able to have fans, and they will have up to 25 to 30,000 approximately people at the race. I don't know how many people if that includes the infield camping or anything, but this is according to Bob Pockris. He said he would guess at 25 to 30,000 depending on the capacity, just the stands and also the infield and stuff. But yeah, that's a big deal. We've talked about COVID obviously restricting everything, but last year we saw some racetracks we didn't even go to because of COVID restrictions, and then some tracks just didn't have fans. But we're seeing more and more tracks are starting to bring fans back. If they didn't have it last year or they had a limited number, those numbers are starting to slightly rise. So I think that's a good sign, good for these tracks to get their ticket sales, to get people back to the racetrack for race weekends. But I mean, there's not much else to say, nothing official on numbers, how many tickets have been sold or anything like that. But that's a Coca-Cola 600. That's a big NASCAR race. It's one of the majors, or one of the crown jewels, as we say. So that's an important race for NASCAR, and I'm sure they want to get people to the track there. But yeah, and then another thing is that they announced that they announced the format for the Bristol Dirt Race, the practices and qualifying. Both trucks and Cup will get 2 hours of practice on Friday, March 26th. 4 15-lap heat races starting at 4:30 Eastern for the trucks, 6:30 Eastern for Cup on Saturday, March 27th. And then the truck race will be that night, and the Cup race will be Sunday afternoon, so Sunday the 28th of March. So we are going to have 2 practices, it looks like, or 2 hours of practice, I should say, and then there will be heat races to determine the starting lineups, 15-lap races. I don't know how many cars are going to be in each race. I mean, I guess 10 cars per heat race. That's how the math works out. Math is difficult sometimes when you're thinking about other things, but yes, there are going to be fans there. Nashville Superspeedway in June is going to have 50 minutes practice for truck and Xfinity on Friday, and then truck qualifying and race on Saturday. Xfinity qualifying, Cup practice, Xfinity race, and then Sunday Cup qualifying and race. But yes, I believe that is it. That's all I got. No, there's one more thing. Camping World will be sponsoring Daniel Suarez and Trackhouse Racing. Marcus Lemonis, very invested into NASCAR, not just with his companies, but he's setting up all these challenges in the Truck Series to win certain races. Or if you can beat a Cup guy, I'll give you some money. Like he and Kevin Harvick set up the bounty last year for Kyle Busch, which Chase Elliott won. And, he's been invested in the sport. He's been investing into, obviously, the Truck Series with the Camping World Truck Series. That's his company that he owns. And now he's going to be investing into the Cup Series. He's going to be sponsoring Daniel Suarez and the new team Trackhouse Racing. I think that's really good for them. And once again, another great paint scheme. I mean, Trackhouse Racing, they have not missed on a paint scheme yet. They have some great-looking cars. But once again, Marcus Lemonis just really seems to love NASCAR, really just loves to invest money in it, it looks like. So, yeah, that's a really cool story there. But that's all I got for today. Make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel for more NASCAR stuffs, and I'll see you guys whenever something else we need to talk about, we get to talk about.